Hey up and welcome to the Temple of Blair. It's taken a while, this one, I do apologise. I've been busy. You know how it is. Anyway, word of warning for this one. This is a Northerner and a Glaswegian having a conversation, so good luck, North American listeners. This is Kenny Garden of Blue Grape Europe. So we're finally starting to scratch that fucking itch. Blue Grape being the merchandising company which Roadrunner used. I choose those words specifically because despite the close association, Blue Grape and Roadrunner are two separate fucking companies. Both owned by Case Vessels, but two independent entities in their own right. Blue Grape is a topic unto itself and a beast unto itself, and I'll be treating it as such over the next few months and enjoying learning about it. Sorry this one took a while, Kenny. I owe you a pint. 1, 2, fuck it up.
Just kind of catching up, you know what I mean? And he's like, oh, this fucking Temple of Blair. And I'm going, blah. And he's going, no, Temple of Blair. And I'm going, what the fuck are you saying, mate? Blah. And he's going, no. It's this guy's doing this documentaries on fucking Roadrunner. And I'm like, oh, yeah. He goes, oh, I just did an interview. And then he's like, actually, he should speak to you. And I'm like, why? And he goes, no, definitely. Yeah. And that was it. So that's all I knew. So I came home and a couple of days later, I thought, what the fuck is this? So I had a look around there. I found his interview. So I watched it and it took me like a couple of days to sort of watch it, but it was great. It was just seeing like Marcus and hearing stuff. I was going, oh, fuck, aye, that's right. Oh, yeah, blah. And then I saw you've done loads, you know what I mean? And like done stuff with the bands and stuff like that. And you know, I started watching Stefan Costos. He's another good friend, you know what I mean, that I've not seen Stefan for God knows how long, you know what I mean? But it was exactly the same guy right there. Yeah, so, you know, what to do, you know what I mean? And it was great. But I've only seen like sort of 10 minutes of it so far. I've obviously got a lot of catching up to do. You know what I mean?
There's like 80 hours. This is why it's...
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like you've been fucking busy, mate.
I'm not fucking about, man.
That's not quick, don't worry.
Yeah.
Nothing to say.
The advantage of this is it's kind of like I think I used to call it like a podcast. Now I just call it a research vehicle disguised as a podcast because it's really dry, kind of a dry look at everything. Because as far as I'm concerned, like
all right, so I'll try and get drier.
Well, the thing I like about it is like trying to speak to fucking Rob Flynn and Dino Cazzara saying, yeah, we know Fear Factory Machinery, but let's talk about the infrastructure which got you to where you are. Which not a lot of people like. They're not prepared for that. Just sort of, I don't know. I don't know where to start really. It just sort of got a mind of its own now, and it's just got a momentum of its own, and it's just unfucking stoppable. So off I trot, you know, trying to get down and dirty with all the details. But I mean, the way you come into it, Kenny, is the way I'm sort of understanding how Roadrunner conducted itself with its artists, right? There is what we know now as the 360 deal. Which is like all these different revenue streams. Back in the early days, it was kind of...
I just smoked my seed fucking everywhere.
it was kind of the 270 deal, and we call it that now in retrospect because we know there were 4 pillars which Case wanted. He wanted touring, he wanted merch, he wanted publishing, and he wanted just the masters, the music itself. So... And I think this. I guess let's open up with the first question, which is what the fuck is Blue Grape in that context then?
Well, Blue Grape was the merch company, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, so I saw we've not spoken before, but you sent me like a couple of those questions. You know what I mean? And I thought, oh wait a minute. I mean, I wasn't in at the ground floor. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to lead you astray with thinking.
Oh no.
This guy knows fucking everything, then it turns out he knows fuck all, you know. So, but yeah, so they're the merch company, and after I'd been there a little while, and this was in the beginning, I was just out on the road with bands, and you found out then that, you know, basically the bands, when they did a record contract, they were then tied into this merch deal, and quite early on, it seemed like a lot of them weren't keen on that, you know what I mean? And didn't like the fact that, you know, they'd been strong-armed into this. You know what I mean? And that there was a general vibe around like fucking Blue Grape, and like nobody liked it. You know what I mean? And I came in not knowing any of this whatsoever. You know, and so it was a wee bit strange. So, but yeah, you became aware that when bands signed to Roadrunner, that they were then like, guys, that's brilliant. There's a record. By the way, we've got your merch as well, so shut the fuck up. You know, I mean, this is what's happening. And these guys in Amsterdam are going to do it for you, you know, so just get on with it. And, you know, and that was that. As I say, like, it was, I mean, listen, to be honest, I knew nothing about, before I started doing stuff with them, I knew nothing about Roadrunner Records. I knew nothing about metal. You know, I mean, my first experience of it was the first day I turned up to do a gig for them, which was Annihilator. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah.
1993 at the Camden Underworld. You know what I mean? And these fucking people came in. You know what I mean? They're like, people do wear spandex. Fuck's sake. You know what I mean? And that was it. That was, I mean, I knew nothing about their catalogue. I didn't know who Roadrunner were. You know what I mean? I wasn't into metal or anything like that.
How did you get in there on the ground floor then? In terms of, I know you just said you were on the ground floor, but I think being on the road is pretty much sufficient for being.
Yeah, well, it turned out that was the basement. You know what I mean? Well, it was. I'll try and make it briefish. It was through some friends in Leeds. So I was working for a band called the Sisters of Mercy. Right, I ended up working for them accidentally because I'd done a business degree, finished that, and I was a big Sisters fan, like mid-80s, you know, and then went to college, did this degree, finished that. They were going on tour. This is like 1991. They hadn't been on. I'd seen them in the 80s, but I missed them when they come back in November 1990 because I was doing my finals. So I went interrailing like in 91. And I was going to go and see them a couple of shows, and I want
for the American audience. Interrailing it was like a train pass for all of Europe.
Oh, right. Sorry, yeah. Hang on, let me try and moderate my accent as well.
The accent's fine. It's just in a post-Brexit world, we need to contextualize the interrail even further.
Okay. Yeah, so I thought, I'm going to go interrailing around Europe. I want a holiday, and I'm going to go and see this band a bit. And I thought, the first show was in Poland, and I'm like, I'm going to go to Poland, man. You know what I mean? This is from Glasgow to Poland, you know what I mean? So I did that, and then the next show was in Budapest, and I met the guy who was doing Sharks that night, you know, and like, you know, he said, I'll come to another couple of shows, you know what I mean? And cut a long story short, I ended up doing the whole European tour, helping him sell T-shirts, and we got on great, and that was it. I started working for them, and I'm like, fucking hell, I love this band, and now I'm working for them. This is
waste of an interrail ticket.
Yeah, exactly. And they've never fucking given me the money back, the bastards. So I'll put off getting a real job for a little while. You know what I mean? And then, you know, did the same like the next year when the Sisters went on tour, blah, blah, blah. So cut to 1993. And this, my mates in Leeds said, a friend of ours is working for this merchandise company. They're in Amsterdam, and they're looking for people to go on the road. You know what I mean? I'm like, perfect. So this girl, Mandy Brown, they set up a phone call interview. You know what I mean? Like, hi, you know, would you go on the road? You know, that's my Yorkshire accent. You know what I mean?
Banging.
Bang on. Bang. You knew which street she was from. You know. So it was just like a phone call, like, oh, what would you do in this situation? I'm going, no fucking idea. You know what I mean? And so I went, okay. And I think that was about April or something like that. She had a tour in mind, but I don't know, it fell through or someone else did it. Anyway, out of the blue, she gets in touch, got this tour, this band Annihilator, never heard of them. I'm like, yeah, fine, I'll do it, whatever. And that was it. So I turned up, they shipped. So they said, we're going to send the merch over. They were making it in Holland. Bear in mind, I knew nothing, absolutely zero about the company or whatever. So they were sending it over. And they went, we've got an office in London. You know what I mean? So you need to get the train from Glasgow down, go to this office, you know, they'll help you, pick up the stuff, go get a taxi, go to the gig, you'll meet the band, do the show, you're on tour. You know what I mean? And I'm like, easy, you know what I mean? So I went round to this, it was a house, I think, which must have been the Roadrunner's office, you know what I mean? And I mean, looking back on it now, I realise that it was like a lot of people at Roadrunner, they fucking hated Blue Grape, mate. You know what I mean? They didn't want anything to do with it, but I was completely oblivious to this. So you went in, and I was like, hi, I'm, you know what I mean? It was basically, and I'm sure this was Mark Palmer, who I love. He's a really nice guy and all that. And, you know, again, somebody else I've not seen for years, but I remember they were just like, oh, fuck. Yeah, that's your stuff there. And it's just a pile of boxes, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, okay, how am I getting that? Well, you better get a taxi. And I'm like, could you phone us one and all that? And I'm like, fucking hell. You know what I mean? I can't, you know, I'm pretty sure none of them helped me get the gear down to the taxi. You know, and it's just like, and I was like, must be London, you know what I mean? They're hostile there, you know. They hate us Scottish people or something. So that was the start of realising that everybody at fucking Roadrunner hated Blue Grape.
What do you know why? Why was that?
Well, I've got my suspicions.
Okay. Incidentally, you are allowed to go off the record and I can edit it out if you like.
All right. No,
That's
I mean,
worth
no. Oh, well, I mean, I don't think I could say anything controversial. I don't know. It depends how much I drink, you know. So I think it was because merchandise it's not in its infancy as a thing, but it was in its infancy in maybe like for all these bands, and the bands weren't happy. And I mean, I remember used to go to gigs and it was like a sort of, oh my God, they've got T-shirts and stuff. And it was like a sort of, like they become like, oh, you know what I mean? And like, you're a source of fun, you know, because, you know, I was like, fuck off, buy one, you know what I mean? And then, you know, so it was just a strange time. It was completely different, you know what I mean? And like gigs, you know, we're like, oh, fucking hell, it's T-shirts, you know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, what's wrong? You know what I mean? So it was all a bit weird. And I think the record company, the people that worked at the record company felt that Blue Grape was just like a sort of hindrance, you know, to them, you know, I didn't know. I mean, again, I just spoke to one person on the phone that by the day I'd started, you know what I mean? And it was over the course of that tour. I met a couple more people because we went to the Dynamo Festival and stuff like that. It was about gig 4 on that tour or something like that. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. It was like 100,000 people everywhere, you know what I mean? And then all these metal bands and stuff. But I think that the merch company was just different, and it, like, just, I don't know, like in the sort of maybe the Dutch characteristics or something. They want everything straightforward and and you know.
You think it's like
untouchable and old, you know what I mean? And like, you know, so if you're doing something sort of different, it's like they want it strict by the book and all these bands. And I think the kind of grenade of the merch people, you know, in amongst them, it was like a sort of, oh, hang on, this is a wee bit strange and different, and it gives us a problem with the bands.
This is the thing as well, because Blue Grape it's separate from, it's owned by Case, but it's separate from Roadrunner.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I ever thought of it like that, because I was always like that. It's the same thing. What are you on about? Aren't we? You know, aren't we together? The more I get into it, you know what I mean? I was kind of like, what's the fucking problem? I mean, we shared the office. Maybe they didn't like that, you know, because Mandy, the girl, she worked at, I went to that, what I think was the sort of, well, the office, the first office in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I think it was Bargesveg or something like that.
The first one was Van Egenstraat.
So it's not that, I don't think.
And the one after was a bigger one. And I think the final one was near the airport, and there's one in between, which I'm not too familiar with.
So the one when I moved there to work there was in Amstelveen.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Which was outside, but there was an office on a little canal street. I thought it was called Bargesveg 289 or something like that. And you went up that to check it. You know. I hope I've not got that wrong. You know.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Jesus. Edit me back in, say the right one, will you?
I'll do it voiceover.
And that's it anyway, so it's all right. And yeah, so Mandy was in that office, and Angelique, who you'll have heard about, I'm sure. You know, Angelique the fighter. No.
Fighter, no.
Well, she's the one that ran Blue Grape. You know?
No idea.
Oh, right. So it's a lady called Angelique the fighter, and she ran the Blue Grape company, basically.
Right.
So she was in charge. And, you know, for whatever reason, she came from a sort of fashion background, I think.
Okay.
You know, so that's why I later, you know, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I kind of do this all the time, but, you know, a lot of the products they made, they're all a bit ahead of their time. Like, it was all custom made, cut and sew gear. They were very forward thinking. They wanted to be fashion, you know, in music or metal and stuff like that, and they were like, it'll sell if it's like that, and you know, we can get it into more places, and people will pay a higher, you know, price for it. I mean, they used to make like crazy stuff, you know, compared to like everybody else, I think, it did help to, I think, probably get the bands on sides and stuff like that in some ways, but in other ways, I think they struggled because they were always getting hassled for approvals. You know, they were always getting, you must approve these 14,000 designs, you know what I mean? And they'd be like, no. Ah, well, and Angelique would be like, no, slow down, you know what I mean? And like, she was very good at getting them to do, you know, what she wanted. And I mean, like, you know, I always remember Rob Flynn saying one time, like, I was like, well, I thought that's all approved, mate, isn't it? You know what I mean? So, I mean, we just wanted her to shut the fuck up. So we just said yes in the end, you know, because she could just like, she'd be poking them in the chest to the point of, you know, like, so you're a big bad rock star, mate. And this mad woman from, I'm not being disrespectful calling her a mad woman, you know, I mean, she's like fucking bonkers, mate. But I mean, she was obviously very good. And part of that is like fucking crazy, you know what I mean?
So so we've alluded to it before when you're saying at shows having a t-shirt stand was a bit funny. So obviously nowadays I'm a product of my own time, so that's always been the case. Was it not always like that?
What do you mean?
Was there not always a merch stand?
Yeah, no, I thought, but like when I started doing it, I mean, yeah, there was, because I mean, when I started going to gigs, like first gig I ever went to was in 1981, Stiff Little Fingers, Glasgow Apollo, you know, there was merchandise on sale, and I never thought it was weird. But I just remember when I started going out, they were like that. At these shows, it was seen, people reacted strangely at venues. I don't know if it's because they were small venues and stuff like that, you know. But I felt there was a sort of strange reaction. Maybe it was to me, I don't know. Maybe like, no, the shots are all right. You're a fucking dick, man. You know, it could be that. I don't know. You need to ask someone else. But yeah, you know, it just seems slightly weird. And when I started, they obviously had a bit of a reputation already, because you'd go around some of these clubs and they'd be like, yeah, fucking Blue Grape. You know what I mean? There seemed to be this anger that went like from, you know, that What's happened in the past? I don't know how they'd done it, who'd done it,
Sure.
or whatever. But part of it was with other bands and stuff like that, because Blue Grape's artists, so the Roadrunner bands, they were always fighting with them because the bands always thought that the Blue Grape wanted to charge too much money, for a t-shirt, and they always wanted to oh, it should be cheaper, man. And so there was this constant argument, and it was like, does anybody know the value of anything? You know what I mean? You're going, like, the t-shirt's fucking 3 times the price of a pint, mate. It's not a lot, and you get to take it home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might not be in one piece, but
is that always the contention then? Does it always?
There was with other support bands in particular. Loads of them used to hate me. You know what I mean? Because you'd be done these weird tours, and they'd be like, "Oh, fucking Blue Grape headline," you know what I mean? And you would ask them to price match,
right?
And they say, like, okay, so we're the headline band. The headline band sets the tone, and but particularly in the States, this was like a no-brainer.
Yep.
Bands in the States were like, if we're selling for $20, you're all selling for $20 and stuff like that. And they wanted that maintained in Europe, but like there was this kind of like, but we should all be pals and we could sell ours for 5 guilders, you know what I mean? And we get nothing to eat, you know what I mean? Like, shut it. So,
I think it's like Rod Smallwood from fucking out Sanctuary. He did like his own analysis, like in the 80s at Maiden shows. He'd actually corner kids and say, "How much money have you got in your pocket? How much money you got in your pocket?" Not to say I want your money, but to say like, well, here's the average Maiden fan brings 18 quid to a gig, so that means that's a pint and a 15 quid t-shirt, and that's how it would operate. So I guess like maybe that kind of analysis isn't exactly going on with your headline band and support acts and things like that. So the only economic question you can ask is, who's going to buy the most expensive t-shirt? Probably not these guys.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's like they're up against it, so like, it's like, well, they're not going to sell much anyway, because the people who's there to see mainly the headline artists, although, there was loads of tours that I was doing back then that they would, I mean, I hardly knew the main band, you know what I mean? So I was going, who's this for? Right, I've never fucking heard of you, mate. Nobody's coming to see you. Oh, they are? Oh, okay. I mean, these like crazy, annoying bands, and maybe they would sell a lot of stuff, but maybe they get shit from their fans, and they'd look, that guy over there, and I'd be giving it, yeah, but like, whatever, let's just all do it like that. So anyway, I don't know what rabbit hole I was going down there.
No, we're trying to suss out like, well, what was the animosity about?
Yeah, so I don't know. I just think from maybe they just the others in Roadrunner didn't take it seriously, and it was a hindrance because it annoyed the bands, so that made their life maybe slightly difficult, and they were like, oh, God's sake, why do we have to have this? It's so much simpler. And like I say, I walked into that. It's just, listen, that could be completely wrong. I'm just giving, and other people in the company, would be like, oh no, it wasn't that. It was because of this. You know what I mean? And but I'm just like, I walked into it, and you could sense a little hostility. And
I will get emails. And
brilliant.
And I'll let you know what.
Yeah. Dear sir, I was appalled. That jock was on again. But I liked. It was like whatever. But on the road, I think there was. I mean, again, I couldn't understand it, and you would turn up and. Still, when I was on the road doing bands, and the band fucking hates you, by the way. So I've never met them. How could they? They don't even know who I am.
Let me throw out some assumptions. You can tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to figure out what because obviously this is one of the pillars of the revenue streams. So it's important for me to sort of, because I'm fucking boring as out, and it's important for me to know the dynamics of it. So price fixing makes sense. That's one thing. As part of the Blue Grape deal, presumably it's almost in essence a royalty, like 10 quid t-shirt, the band gets 2 quid or whatever it is.
I think most of them are on royalty deals, you know, where a lot of them they might get an advance or something like that, and then it would be, you know, chipped away at through the tours and like retail, because they were doing a lot of retail. They were trying to get in places, and well, online wasn't a thing back then, you know. So retail sales and online, touring sales, and there were always this, you know, recoupment thing, you know, I mean, blah blah blah, and you know, that was it, really. Yes.
Right. Right. Okay. And that was presumably, and just to get really dull, presumably, what's the supply and demand dynamics like? How do you know how much you're going to need going out? A Sepultura tour, you're going to need a fucking load more than, say, a Star tour.
Well, that's the tricky thing, isn't it? That I still wrestle with today. It's like, oh, fuck you. So, I don't know. You're like, is it a full moon? You know, I mean, is it like, you know? Well, yeah, I mean, so that first year, I did that. So that didn't involve me. Those kind of logistics didn't involve me until I got in the office. And I took the office job in, like, I think it was 1997. But so I mean, that first 93, you know, doing that Annihilator tour, I went straight into a Deicide tour. You know, that was like...
Oh, were you there for the Bomb Threat?
No, I think that... Well, I know they cancelled. Maybe that was the London one.
No, it was Manchester Apollo.
I think that had been the tour before.
Right.
And then when we did this tour, again, I'm like, who are these guys? And the man was like, he's got an upside down cross burnt into his forehead. You know, I mean, she doesn't speak like that at all. I don't know why I did that. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And it was just like, it was crazy. You know what I mean? It was just like, this is absolutely insane. Those Annihilator guys were nothing compared to these loon balls. You know what I mean? And it was like, I was driving that as well, you know. So it was just, I had the gear in the back, you know, driving around, like, you know, doing the shows, and it was madness, you know. I mean, and I think they had a tough relationship with Blue Grape as well. Like they weren't that keen, you know what I mean? But I'm just like, listen, I'm just here for a good time, mate. You know what I mean? Come on, let's sell some t-shirts. Let's make you some money, Glenn. Come on. You know what I mean? You need more tattoos. He was getting tattooed every day. You know what I mean? There was a tattooist on the tour that was doing these devil heads on him every day. But anyway, did that, and then next thing they start talking about this band called Sepultura. And I'm like, no idea, mate. You know, and all that. Well, you can go out on it, like whatever, Chaos AD tour. And I'm like, yeah, fine, you know what I mean? And that was just like, yeah, as you say, it was another level of, like, it was insane. You know, the amount of shirts that were sold, you know, on that tour was just absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? It was, you're like, I've never heard of these people. They seem very popular, however, you know, and people were nuts for it, you know what I mean? And,
yeah, it's alternative to Big Four thrash, isn't it? You can have Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, or you can have this fucking set of Brazilian nut jobs. And I think it speaks to, like, the British aesthetic to go, we want the nut jobs.
Yeah, we'll take the nut jobs, please, mate. You know what I mean? All the time. But, like, trying to work out, you know, again, as I said, at that point, it wasn't my job to decide, you know, how much, you know, what do we need for a tour like that? Latterly, it became that, and it's been like that for the rest of my life. You know, apart from every now and then nipping out on the road, which I love, but, like, most of the time, I'm trying to do both. I'm, like, trying to go on the road or You know, like, right, we need this for this too, and it's all projections and bollocks, you know what I mean? So
What other tat would you make then? For you mentioned like Blue Grape didn't just do like apparel; it was some other stuff as well.
yeah, I mean, me at the time, it was new to me. They did these things called jams, which were the shorts. You know,
All
what I mean?
right.
They were
Okay.
really popular. You know, what I mean, I'm like jams, fucking hell. But they did shorts for all these bands. They were like, you know, the same material as like jogging bottoms and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But like all that shit was, and all the hoodies, demonstrating everything, you know. So you know, I don't think we really had many accessories at that
Right.
point, as I would call them now. You know, like you know, the badge sets and all that shit. You know, what I mean, there wasn't any of that. There was never any. There was never any CDs or like vinyl or anything like that in those days. It was just all. It was just always the t-shirts, you know, and that was pretty much it. I'm trying to think. I mean, we probably had a cap or something like that. I'm trying to think of that. We had a lot of stuff. You know, that was the thing for some of these bands. You begin into these tiny venues, and I've got fucking 8 t-shirts, mate. You know what I mean? And it was like gaffer tape to a wall or something like that. You know what I mean? But accessories, I don't think we really had. We had that much. You know.
So talk me through how you got to the office role. Then we're calling it the office role. I don't know what the actual title. Yeah, I don't know what the actual title is.
Right, the office job. Well, so I, as I say, I did tours for them and a few other companies and stuff like that, and the sisters in between time. Over the next, it's like, still don't need a proper job. This is going great. You know what I mean? I'm, you know, traveling about and doing stuff, and you know, I mean, like, got all over Europe, and I'd been. I think by that point, I'd been to Australia with Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that. You know, and that was great. That was always good fun.
Maybe that's why Blue Grape gets the bad rap from Roadrunner, because they do other bands, they do other licenses, they do other labels.
That was about the only one, though. You know what I mean? And I probably wouldn't have been aware too much that there was, like, they weren't. I mean, I thought they were on Roadrunner.
No, Cannibal weren't. They're like they're one of the only Florida death metal bands not to be.
Yeah, because we did Obituary, as well. I think I did some stuff with them, but Cannibal Corpse I went on the road with, because they were always up. Oh, you're banned in Germany now. You know what I mean? Because the Germans didn't like that some of the lyrics or stuff like that. They were like, there will be police in the venue if you play this song. They know every word. You know what I mean? And you'd be like, oh, they'll be giving it. Okay, the gig can go ahead, but you're not allowed to sell your t-shirts. You know, you're like, what? So either we were banned, me and Jessica. You know what I mean? I'm like, not again. Or we had to set up outside or something like that. You're not allowed within 50 yards of the venue with your t-shirts. You know what I mean? They're disgusting. I'm like, fucking no, mate. You know what I mean? I'm sleeping on them half the time. You know? So, so anyway, sorry.
Sorry.
Rogue just through this, and you know, I was in and out. I was doing quite a lot of work for them. You know, I was probably their main road guy, like the sort of main guy that, you know, I got the first call for tours and stuff like that. And, you know, Mandy started drafting in a few other, you know, British guys as well that, you know, I still know, like, today, and we still do stuff and things like that. But she then, like 97, announces that she's leaving. And she goes, I'm going to work for the circus. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, you're leaving the clowns here, you know, go work for the circus. But she'd got offered a job with Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, wow.
So that was a bit different, you know what I mean? So, and I was like, all right, okay. And she went, you should apply for the job. You should move to Amsterdam and do it. And I was like, well, all right, you know what I mean? Whatever. So she set up an interview, and I came across, and I had an interview with Angelique, and I think I saw Case briefly, you know, and Angelique, you know, was just asking questions and whatever. You know, they knew me anyway. You know, they'd met me, but I think they wanted to. Angelique dreamt of this fashion empire, you know. So I think she was trying to find out if I was going to be the next Hugo Boss of merchandise or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, probably not. You know what I mean? Does he wear kilts? You know, so but yeah, did the interview and that was it. You know, went out with Mandy that night. I can't remember, there was somebody was playing at the Meltveg, and I remember we get absolutely wrecked because I had a terrible hangover the next day. But and then they ended up, I got the job, they offered me the job, and it was like, yeah, fine. So I moved to Holland to take up the job in the office, you know what I mean? And yeah, it was just a bit bizarre. And like I say, I knew a lot of the staff, because if there was a gig in Hull, they'd come down, and they kind of like, I usually ended up, I got on with, like, you know, fortunately, you could usually get on with the bands or stuff like that, you know, because you're on the road and stuff. So sometimes if they were having a problem about, oh, they'd want to come and hang out with you, i.e. the people from Roadrunner or something like that, that were like, oh God, the band are giving us a hard time. And like, well, you know, you ask them or give them this or something like that, I don't know. So like I knew a lot of the people that worked there, and one of the people that met was Marcus, you know, because he was English, you know, and a good friend of Mandy's, and he'd come down to gigs, and he's always like he's a real gent, you know. I'm like, good evening, you know what I mean? And so actually the day I arrived, he picked me up at the airport and took me out for a drink, took me to where I was going to be living, and then took me out for a drink just to get us settled, and it was brilliant, you know. And then I turned up on the Monday, went to work, and it was like, right, here's some tours, right, you start working out how many t-shirts you're going to need and stuff like that. So yeah, it was, and that was in Amstelveen, or Amstelveen, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but that's weird.
I've heard both.
Amstelveen. And you know, so it was just like crack on, meet the rest of the team, most of whom I knew anyway, from seeing at gigs, because they would all come down, because everybody that worked there was the bulk of them were all metalheads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which again, so I was different, because I'm like playing something else in the office. They were like, get the new Death album on or something like that. You know, I mean, another one I'd been on tour with that didn't get on with Blue Grape. Fuck's sake. You know, there was just this constant battles. Anyway, yeah, so started, and you know, you just got on with stuff, you know what I mean? It's like, to me, it was just about bands are going out, we need t-shirts, you know, let's do it. I've got somebody to go out on the road. Can they get on the big things are, can they get on the bus? Have you got a bunk on the bus for them? Have you got room to transport the merch? You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, if not, you know, you're like, right, we're looking at self-driving it. And that would come up, like, say with Death, because Chuck, in the end, didn't want you on the bus. You weren't they wouldn't do anything to help. You know what I mean? Because he hated them that much. You know what I mean? And I was like, why, mate? The first tour I did, it was okay and all that. You know what I mean? But after that, I think the second time I went out with them, I had to drive. And then latterly, it was always a drive. You know what I mean? And yeah, there was just these battles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, aren't we all pulling together, mate? You know what I mean? Trying to sell as much t-shirt, make as much money for you as possible. But
no, you're on your own, mate.
An undercurrent, mate. There was something going on.
Where was the merch made then? Presumably on somewhere in...
So we had a printers. Well, there was a printers in Brooklyn, the original Brooklyn. Which was about half an hour outside Amsterdam.
Right.
They had a storage facility down there, and there was a printers down there that they used basically for like most of the t-shirts. Anything fancy, like that was all, a lot of that was all getting made in Turkey. So it had these, it was all like, I mean, all cut and sew. It was all like, you know, gear that took a lot of time to manufacture, and they were placing big orders. You know, somebody was giving it right. All right, for this, excuse me, new Sepultura. The best selling shirt we've probably they ever had, was this Sepultura football top. You know, like bright yellow, green, like, you know, Sepultura sign, like Sepultura across the back, a number, something like that. Man, that summer festivals that we took that out on, just disappeared. Like, it was like gone. And like they couldn't keep up with demand. And Gloria's going bananas because it's like, they sold out the day before. You know what I mean? The day before we played, and it's like, yeah, fucking popular. You know what I mean? So, but they got all these things manufactured in Turkey. Mm-hmm. So there was a lady in the Angelique and this lady Anna. They used to deal with that, and they'd be like screaming matches down the phone. You know what I mean? Because they were like, "What do you mean it's still late?" You know what I mean? No, they were very strict. You know what I mean? And they'd be out. Deliveries would be coming. You know, R6 would be turning up at the office, and they'd be going out measuring. Like, nah, mate, the seam's not right. Send it back to Turkey. You know what I mean? Truckload and all this. It was crazy.
Have you got any typos?
Any typos? There's always the odd typo, mate, but we don't like to talk about that. You know what I mean? In case I'm involved. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, there's like, you know, there's all stuff like that, you know, in merchandise. Getting the city spelt wrong is always embarrassing. You know? I had one a couple of years ago. It was just like, you know, it's humiliating, but you know,
roll with it.
Yeah, what can you do?
Here's something I probably should have asked at the start. Do you know why it was called Blue Grape?
No, I've absolutely no idea. And that it always seemed crazy to me that it was called Blue Grape, because it was like, it's not a very good name. You know what I mean? And it was a big B, you know, like a stenciled B, you know, it said Blue Grape round it. And it was like, Blue Grape. And that's almost like how people, oh, fucking Blue Grape. People would be saying it at gigs. Which company are you from? Blue Grape. Fucking Blue Grape. You know, so I've no idea why it was called Blue Grape. And then so when I started in the office, like I say, I'd seen Case, you know, briefly. I knew him because I'd met him probably a couple of times in passing. You know, hi, Don. You know, it sounds like one of the Godfather or something like that. And so I'd seen him at the interview or whatever, and I'd probably been there about a week, and he came in, you know, and he's like, you moved up from some town in the south of like Holland or something like that. And I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, you live down there. And I was like, no, that was the other guy you interviewed, mate. You know what I mean? No, I'm the guy from Scotland, remember? The one you can't. Oh, yeah. See you later. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, cool. But so about a week later or something, he asked me to write a report on Blue Grape. And I was like, so I took this sort of report, not knowing what the fuck it is he wants. Yeah, like, you know, so I'm like, okay, got that report? Like, yeah, mate, yeah, definitely. So I give him it. And then 2 days later, he goes, I wasn't what I wanted. You know what I mean? I want you to tell me what we're not like what's going on or whatever, but tell me what we need to do, what's wrong. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's worrying. Well, number one, what's wrong is you don't know where I fucking live. You're not paying attention. But in that, I was like, well, you know, obviously, I can't really remember. I'm sure I'd be embarrassed as fuck if I read it again. It'd probably total garbage, you know. But I'm sure I said something like, you know, let's try and forge better relationships with the artists, you know, and let's try and sign other artists, you know, spend some money and like, you know, get some of these bigger, you know, British artists or American artists, because it seemed like the company had money, you know, wanted to do stuff, and it would be nice, I thought, if we could bridge out a wee bit and like get some other,
Mhm.
big bands in and stuff like that, and then I was like that, I think we should rename the company, you know what I mean? Because this name's terrible, you know what I mean? It's like, and I don't know, like it's just, I've got no idea what it was all about, where it came from, or I mean, I saw there was a bit. I think it was in so Marcus mentioned something about like the All Blacks, and it was just because they loved
The New Zealand
rugby team. So I don't know, did I like fucking grapes or something? You know what I mean? Yeah, call that blue grape, yeah. It's purple, mate, isn't it? Fuck that. You know, it was blue. So I don't know. It was just strange. But that was one of the things I said. I'm sure. Could we change the name or even the logo? The logo was terrible. You know what I mean? Boom, big B. You know what I mean? It's like, oh God. So
I take it he was like, nah, fuck that.
yeah, exactly. Oh, wait, who's going to listen to me? You know what I mean?
I found when I find an article, it's called Music and Media, April 21st, 1990. Touring, they're making the most of merchandise. It's just a thing I found like 5 minutes before we started.
Right.
Bits and bobs on, the odds and sods of drink water and fucking other companies. But towards the end of the article, I quote, in Holland, Roadrunner Records launched Blue Grape merchandising about 6 months ago. So that places it sort of like tail end of 1989. Roadrunner MD, Case Wessels. It has been very successful for us. Most of the deals we do are with Roadrunner's own artists, and the income that they make from tour merchandising certainly helps to subsidize high touring costs. Around 90% of Blue Grape's business is t-shirts. We deal mainly with the smaller heavy metal bands, and more extreme the band, the better their t-shirt sales tend to be.
Yeah.
He says bootlegging is a big problem, which no individual company can deal with on its own. The answer is for all merchandisers to work together in the same way that record companies have combined to fight piracy.
Yeah.
Was bootlegging a thing, a big issue back then?
Yeah. I mean, on that, I knew about it from the sisters. When I started working for the Sisters of Mercy on that tour, and there was like bootleggers about, and it was like, oh fuck's sake. I mean, it's always been quite a violent thing, dealing with bootleggers, and it was back then, and
because they're just imposing on your space. That's the idea, and they will just come in with
stealing the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're turning up with their t-shirts and selling them for
their tat
or whatever. You know what I mean? And so the artist's getting nothing. Blah blah blah, all that. So I knew about bootlegging because Sisters of Mercy were a huge merchandise band.
Yeah.
So they were very attractive to bootleggers, and it was all all over Europe. It was all English people that did the bootlegging mainly. So south of Manchester mainly is the centre of bootlegging. Yep. I mean, if you go to Italy, it's another world of bootlegging, because if you go to a show, if you're doing a show in Milan or something like that, you'll get there in the morning and there'll be some stands set up outside, and by lunchtime there'll be 50 stands all selling bootleg, and there's not a thing you can do because they're like, no, they buy licenses to have a stall, and copyright laws on, blah blah blah. The only thing you can do is get the financial police sort of involved and stuff like that. And if you're a bigger artist, you can do all that sort of thing. But in Italy, generally, when you went there, they just had all the stand. But American bands were forever getting into trouble because they were like, yeah, fuck that, man. When they were running, tearing down, and then they'd be getting arrested. It's all that jock mentality. But bootlegging in general. So yeah, there was. I mean, on the smaller tours, we didn't really have too many problems. But the minute that we went out with Sepultura, I mean, we'd bootleg security on that from day one. To deal with the bootleggers. So they're
dedicated people to go.
Dedicated crew of guys. Like, all right, Mike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we had German guys on that. But I mean, that's a murky world on its own. You know what I mean? Because you'd be going out like to see what's going on, and the bootleg security would be standing chatting to the bootleggers, you know what I mean? Or like, and you're like, mate, I'm fucking paying you to stop this. They're like, grab the t-shirts off them. You're like, why even fucking bother? You know, so, but guys that, to bring it up to date, guys that we work with these days are much more professional than that. You know, I mean, they don't, but bootlegging is just a murky, ugly world. It's, you know, I mean, it's a real ugly sort of side of merchandise, dealing with it. And the losses can be colossal. You know, I mean, you can really see the income of a band like just obliterated.
Let's gracelessly jump down this rabbit hole then. So give me an example of like devastating example of where this has all gone tits up because the bootlegger was so prevalent.
Well, I mean, there's loads of times that, you know, what will happen is if you don't have security out on it. I mean, these days, like it's rampant in the UK, you know, I mean, at like all sorts of levels of gigs. And there'll be like 20 people outside. They started putting down tarpaulins and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it used to be, there'd be like a sort of gentleman's agreement that, you know, they would sell after the show. They wouldn't cover what's called the in, you know what I mean? So when the audience is all coming in, so you've got the in and the out, they're your big times. And you want the audience coming in clean, basically. You know, they've not bought bootleg shirts, but then the bootleggers, they don't give a fuck. So they're walking up and down. And if it's a youngish audience, you know, I mean, we do like all like Fall Out Boy, like, you know, Panic at the Disco, stuff like, you know, whatever. Big merch bands. And they're just like, yeah, great. And they could clean up. So you've got, I mean, we used to do, what were they called? I'm trying to think, sorry, I'm just thinking of another band. Temporarily forgot, but they would never agree to having bootleg security. And they just, everybody would come in. You could see everybody coming in wearing a bootleg. You know, like 200 kids would be coming in all wearing. So the bootleggers have cleaned up. I mean, they've done about, you know, 2 or 3 grand on the in, and you're not getting that share of the money. So the artist isn't getting it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, so it can get very out of hand.
Yeah.
You know, so the downside is you've got to then employ security because venue security aren't interested. You know, that's not our job, mate. It's like, well, I thought you owned the pavement and all that. Not our job, mate. You know what I mean? But they're blocking the exit. People can't get out. You know what I mean? There's a crush inside. Yeah, but we're not moving the bootleggers because they're all shit scared of them.
Mm.
You know,
it's an organised. There's an infrastructure there.
Well, it's organised crime, mate. You know what I mean? So, but you know, it's just like, it's just t-shirts. So, you know, but it can cost a lot of money. So, but yeah, back then, you know, the first time with Roadrunner, Blue Grape, I would have seen it would have been on that Sepultura tour, and then various sort of tours, just sort of over the years of those. They're like, you know, there'd be very little bootlegging on like a Cannibal Corpse or an Obituary tour. There would be sometimes, like in, you know, Polish guys or something like that would maybe be doing a few shirts or something like that. But Germany used to crack down on it.
Really?
Yeah, which was weird. Bootleggers would be getting arrested in Cologne and stuff like that. And we used to do the big gig there, the arena there. You know, English bootleggers would be getting arrested, and you'd be like, but they would be wanting you then to give them authorization to charge them and go to court and all that. You're like, well, just like, you know. They just fucking stop them selling. You know what I mean? It's like,
I don't want to ruin the guy's life.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin the guy's life. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I might be a but I'm not that bad. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But so what else did they say in that thing? Lots of bootlegging, but their income was good. You know,
income was good on the smaller bands. Yeah, the more extreme the band, the better the t-shirt sales, and that speaks to probably kind of what you were saying, because I imagine bootleggers won't be asked with like an extreme metal band, which they can't see, because they'll have to do their own analysis themselves, won't they? They'll have to go.
They didn't know at the time that these bands. I mean, like, I was a regular person. I had no idea it existed. You know what I mean? So
exactly, yeah.
You know, they would have to be into it. I mean, it honestly was it was like, what is this subculture like that I've somehow ended up in? And you're like, that's all right. Actually, it's like, I mean, as long as you get plenty of earplugs, I mean, play away, guys, play away.
Because I remember seeing like a lecture at some point where I think it was with Manchester United's IP lawyer, and he was basically saying, "Look, Man U is the biggest IP on the face of the human. That you think it's Coca-Cola, you think it's Microsoft and Apple. It's not. It's Man United. Just by simple presence, because especially in like the Southeast, in the Orient, and in the Philippines, absolutely every fucker and their mum is wearing a Man U t-shirt, bootlegged or not. So in terms of pure growth and spread, Man U's the one. So I just wanted to see the mechanics of that from a geek perspective. Let's move it back to the old Grape group. How did you
calling it the Grape?
That's what the Grape better name, isn't it?
Okay, let's finish it now.
How did you work with the US guys then? Or was it just treated as these are completely different territories with different laws and different merchandising standards?
No, well, I mean, it was great because like Felix ran so I'm going to put a light on here. I don't know if it does seem very dark.
No, it was like mine comes on enough because I fuck about. I've got light as well.
Maybe I have to light me better later, mate.
Yeah, I'll put some color grade on there or something. match our skin tones.
I thought I was looking a bit peaky, So Felix ran the American office, and I probably met him like over the course of the time that I was out on the road and stuff like that. And then once I was in the office, you dealt with them because the bulk of the bands were American. So, they were coming over. So they would be going, here's the product line and stuff like that, and they would like going, here's what you could ask them. So you want to know what the big seller, if they've been on the road already, go, well, what's the good sellers and stuff like that. And so you got a lot of information. And, Felix is such a great, I've not spoken to him for ages, you know what I mean? But it was brilliant, I mean, he was always on your side, and it was like having another ally. And when he came over, it was like, oh, brilliant, you could go out and like, he'd be smoking cigars and like, it's just like, come on, Cam, we'll go to a gig, and just great, so it was good fun working with them. And like, everybody that was in their office, there's Eddie and, a bunch of other people, and I ended up going over there and doing some tours, like in the States latterly. I think when Blue Grape had closed down, the Dutch office, but that's maybe skipping ahead of sort of time.
That's cool. I'll make a note and I'll come back to that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was great. The Americans, they provided a lot of the information. Like I say, the bulk of the artists were American artists that were coming over. Life of Agony, they were absolutely brilliant. Madball, blah blah blah, Dog Eat Dog. I mean, they couldn't get arrested in the States, but at some point in the mid-90s, they were absolutely massive in Holland. Again, I'd never heard of them until I got involved. And,
did you do Dynamo 95?
Yeah, I'd been there, I think. Yeah. Dynamo 95,
95, when it was like, I think it was
that Typo and all that.
All of them, yeah. Pretty much 90% of the bands on were Roadrunner bands.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one. I mean, there was a few. Obviously, it was every year, but that there was one that I remember was absolutely massive, and I think Nail Bomb played as well, probably. Right. But there was from our perspective, I think, I can't remember who else was up, but I know Typo, they would be doing things like giving it, we demand, we're not going to do the festival unless we can have 15 shirts on sale. And like, the other headliner, well, we've got to have 15 shirts on sale, I mean? And they'd be doing this, you know what I mean? And you'd be like, Jesus Christ, that's a logistical nightmare. And then Gloria would be coming along going mental because Nail Bomb had sold out or something like that. I mean, like half an hour after they played, or like half an hour before they played, or something. It's like, merchandise. It's a guessing game, mate. I mean, it's like it is. you're pulling information out of the air.
Yeah.
On like what you're predicting the sales are going to be. And it's all right once things been up and running. But I mean, at a festival, you know, you're competing with event gear, headliners, this, that, and the next thing, drunks, you know, people that don't know what they want. And, you know, so you can very rarely win. And then, you know, bands go off on them, don't they? You know, so.
I get
it's
it's a bit of their money in it, so they're gonna have some sort of.
Of course it is. Yeah. But it's like you're all, Jesus, mate. You know, I'm trying to make it. But
so how do things progress then? So it's 97, 98, and you.
Yeah. So I started in the office and just cracked on. You know, the bands, blah blah blah. You know, enjoying it. I mean, it was good. It was like different living there, you know, learning how to probably do that job. I mean, I don't know. I think people just sort of assumed that you could. I mean, it was crazy, like I say, because also Angelique was full on, you know. I mean, anybody that knows her knows, like, I mean, she's barking mad. You know, again, I don't like, you know, she's lovely, but she was like, you know, like use everything to get what she wanted, you know, screaming, crying, you know, like this could be on an hourly basis in the office, you know. I mean, you're like, man, what is happening here? And everybody else, they were obviously used to it. They'd worked there for quite a while. And I think maybe that's what pissed off some of the record company mob. But the other guys, Erwin and Ronald and all that, and that worked there, they were used to it. They could, they were like, oh, she's just normal, huh? Yeah, she's Angelique. She is our leader, you know. So I was like, oh, fucking hell, man. So,
how does it all change? Because as we get into the turn of the century, we get to like get up to this point. It's very much like an underground metal label with some moderate commercial success with some of the more with stuff like Sepultura and Type O Negative. But then it all blows up around 9/11, doesn't it? Because we got we got Nickelback and Slipknot. Does that change the dynamic?
Well, things had changed hugely by then because they closed. So there was a merch company in the UK called Underworld that they were doing quite a bit of business with, and then Underworld got into difficulties and ended up. I wouldn't say it was a takeover or whatever, but it was a sort of takeover. And Blue Grape took over some of their acts. And like a lot of the staff, and opened a London office.
Right, okay.
With what it turned out with the intention of closing their Dutch office. But we didn't know that at the time. But that's what the plan was. So that's in effect what happened. They decided, because cases like that, and it made sense that London's the centre of, like, you know,
culture.
Yeah, but like, oh yeah, you know, the centre of merchandise, centre of the music industry, really, but certainly the centre of merchandise. And I think maybe he thought, you know, those guys can they were used to working with, I mean, they had all the big, you know, Take That, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They were doing all these big tours and stuff, and the staff, etc. So they figured that they could get hold of them and it would be good for the company, you know what I mean? So they laid everybody off in Holland, myself included. Fucking what? You know, I've moved here, mate. You know what I mean?
What year are we in for this?
That was like 99, I think.
Right, okay.
And then it moved to London because I was like, what am I going to do? And when they were closing it down, Sepultura were going back out, we're going out on tour. Now, this was the first tour with Derek singing, you know what I mean, and the other guys. And I was pretty good friends with the band. I felt like I was anyway, you know what I mean? We got on well. And I was like, right, well, I'll go back out on the road with them. So I did that. And then it was like, right, I'll decide what I'm doing after that. And the London office opened up. And so those guys then were like, well, you know, these bands on the road, so we'll put you out on the roads. And things started. I mean, they had other acts that they were UK artists that they were bringing in and stuff like that. Or still trying to retain working with. But when Slipknot came along, I did that first tour on the roads, which I think was late '99, maybe December '99 or something like that. I mean, it was like fucking it. I mean, it was brilliant, you know what I mean? I mean, it was insane, you know, but it was like, what the hell is this? But yeah, merch sales, we knew already from the States, this was Felix's big thing.
Right.
I mean, you know, huge, you know, I mean, they'd got it and all that, you know, and yeah, it was great. And I say I went out on the road, but they were all really nice guys, you know what I mean? It was a great tour to be on. They were all, you know, just they were all really, they weren't all normal, but they were all pretty normal, you know what I mean? Like, and just American guys from the Midwest or whatever, you know. I mean, you're never going to say Sean's normal, but you know, it's like fucking amazing, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was brilliant that, you know, I mean, it was great. And but yeah, like, I think in the States it was probably bigger, or you know, with they could see the advantage of being in America for merchandise is that the tours are bigger. You know, a tour will go on 3 months, whereas here it might be 3 weeks around Europe or something like that. So if you've got somebody that's smashing it, you know, I mean, they're going to be out, you know, I mean, a summer tour in the States. So when those guys, you know, they were probably giving it, this is magic. And again, when Nickelback came along, they were like, boom, straight in, you know, like the arenas in the UK and Europe and stuff like that, you know, and that went mental, that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think I just sort of, I'm trying to think if I was in the London office by then, because after being laid off in Holland, I've got 18 months later, rehired. It's always a standing joke we had, you know what I mean? I'm giving it, mate, Case, you've got to hire me again, you know what I mean? Because I need a third time round here, you know what I mean? You made me redundant twice, mate, you know? I need to retire on that. I'm needing a third redundancy check, mate. So I ended up working in the London office. Again, the guy that had kind of taken over my job, he went off to work for another company and they did the same. Right, why don't you come into it? And I was like, now I'm moving to London, you know what I mean? Which wasn't as good as moving to Amsterdam, I can definitely say. And
sure.
Yeah, it was like, fucking hell. But yeah, that's, you know, that's about it at the moment. You know, and it was just like, get back on. So what else do we need to know?
Well, I think I was going to ask what you're doing now, because I imagine it's still merch, or it's still something in the similar.
Yeah, you can never get out of it, mate. You know, I mean, as much as you try, you know. Yeah, I mean, Blue Grape. Well, so to continue the story, you know, it was like the London office took over, and Amsterdam was finished, and we just worked as normal in London, you know, the same bands, but also bringing in different bands and stuff like that. And then I guess around about 2003, 4 or something like that, Case, I think, had enough, you know what I mean, and wanted to sell Blue Grape, and he sold it to Bravado.
Who are Bravado?
So Bravado are one of the big merch companies, you know what I mean? They were like one of the real heavy hitters. They've been bought and sold a few times. You know, Universal owned them,
right, okay.
blah, 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 all that. So Barry Drinkwater that you mentioned, it was owned by these brothers, the Drinkwaters, who you mentioned in that article.
Yeah.
They've been around for years. They had, like, they were doing all the big artists, and they're still going. There's them, Global, and Merch Traffic, you know what I mean? And a lot of the big bands all go around. You know, everybody's done them, you know what I mean, including, you know, Blue Grape. We started doing something, we were doing Coldplay and stuff like this. And then Manic Street Preachers and stuff like that, blah, 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 in early sort of 2000s. And then Coldplay went to what is now MFL, who are the guys that I do a lot of work for these days. That's my sort of number one client. And then they went probably from there to Bravado. They're probably, I don't know who they're with now, probably Merch Traffic. And it's the same for a lot of artists. They just all go around, you know what I mean?
Did Angelique satisfy her dream of creating a fashion empire, though? That's the main question.
I don't think so. So I think the sale of the company, to be fair to Angelique, was devastating. I think she was really heartbroken by it, because she was trying, she had absolutely tried her best, and was wanting to, make a real go of it and stuff like that, but I think the sale of it really, probably, she was probably she was very upset by it, you know what I mean? But that's the way, that's the way it goes.
And Case owns it throughout. He's not got any joint ventures with anyone.
No. So as far as I'm aware, I mean, it was always, he owned it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Angelique owned a part of it or something like that, if that's how, she had some sort of like capital in it, or some equity in it, I should say. Again, Felix would have a much better idea, of this. Obviously, Felix will, would be somebody that, would be able to fill in all these blanks, mate. My head's just time addled, mate, addled. So, Angelique, it was just, it was her thing. And then by that point, so if they started 1990, 10, sort of 12 years or whatever, she moved to London as well, and she was in and out of the office there, and then just kind of latterly, it was, I think she retired from it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, she died not long after that, unfortunately, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that was quite sad, something like that. But 2003, 4, something like that, I think, So,
that's a shame.
Young. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? If you want to meet a larger than life character, mate, she's it. You know what I mean? But so it just it cracked on in the UK, but then I think the record company had had enough. There was losses building up and stuff like that, and the Dutch hate to lose any money, understandably. But if you think Scots are tight, mate, you know what I mean? It's like the Dutch. So there's a lot of pressure on to stop. The accounts guys hated it, because and I love those accounts guys, Women You're In. I think they still work for Case now, and they were crazy. You know what I mean? Case has such a good relationship with a lot of his staff, because loads of them stayed there all the time. I mean, Erwin still works for them, who worked in the merchant, but he started in the record company, got put in the merch company, back into the record company, now he's in the book company. Marcus, you know what I mean? But Jeroen, Wim, the two accounts guys, they loved the trip, you know what I mean? Because they would go around all the offices, doing the accounts, which meant they could get right on it. I don't know. Speak to them and see if you need to edit that out, but they'd be like, yeah, mate, we're on the piss. Phoning Case up, leaving messages in his answer machine in the middle of the night, absolutely hammered. Stuff like that. They're brilliant. So they felt comfortable in doing that. Oh, you're smart! I'm really drunk! You know what I mean? 2 a.m, so the awesome. Later business, So, but yeah, it got to this point. Record label had enough of it, and as far as I was aware, and managed to sell it.
Well, they were joint. They were partially owned by Universal Roadrunner, so it makes sense that Bravado, being a Universal-owned company, would then buy out Blue Grape. Yeah,
but I don't know if they were partially owned by them at that point. I don't know. You know better than me, maybe.
I wouldn't know about Bravado, but I could certainly find out.
No, I like, but I don't know when Universal partly owned Roadrunner.
2001.
2001. All right, so maybe then. Yeah, maybe that's something to do with it. Again, Felix is be a man for the facts. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the facts. If you want the facts, mate, don't ask me. You know, but
are there any other sort of like stories or observations that you might have thought of over the last few weeks while I've been chatting that we haven't come across yet?
It's been quite nice, sort of thinking about it. Again, you know, I mean, thinking about the band, thinking about that time. You know, I mean, it was because it was like, that's like, you know, it's whatever 20 whatever years ago. You know, 25 years ago. But I don't know. Okay, you do the math.
28 years ago.
Yeah, when starting and like, just you ended up in this kind of like mad career that you've never thought. I mean, I did this business degree, you know. I mean, and I'm flogging size shirts, you know what I mean. And it's like, what's happening? But it was great fun, and you know, the bands were like insane. I mean, it was really good fun going out on tour with like a lot of the Machine Head, you know what I mean, that first tour, the first kind of headline tour. I think they've done the Slayer support.
Yeah.
Where like, you know, Burn My Eyes or whatever, but then they went out in Europe. Again, this was another one. It's massive, it's massive. I'm like, I've never fucking heard of them. You know what I mean? What you keep saying that? You know, like, oh, they are massive, you know what I mean? And you know, it needed two of us out on it, and I took another friend from Glasgow, you know, and we just had a great time. And the band, it was, you know, Rob, Adam and Logan and Chris Contos and all that. And they were all funny, you know what I mean, and loving it and all that, you know, and it was just great fun. I was Haggis brother number 1 and Mick was Haggis brother number 2, you know what I mean, and that was it, you know, so yeah.
Did you get to attend one of the Christmas parties?
One of the
Roadrunner Christmas parties?
Roadrunner ones? Not as a sort of like at that, not until I worked in the office. You know, you were never invited really to, you know, again, fucking blow Grape. You know, on them darkening the door. You know what I mean? So yeah, you were still an outcast, mate. You know,
yeah.
But no, I was never invited to any of that stuff until I worked there, and then you know, you were like, yeah, you were like, I enjoyed the guys at the record company. I always got on with quite well, and I liked, you know, would go out. Sometimes they'd go if there was bands in town that that maybe I'd been on the road with or I knew a bit, like, and they had to go out and take them out and stuff like that. They'd ask me to come along, you know, because they didn't know them as well or something like that.
Sure.
And you'd be like, okay, are you buying the drinks? You know what I mean? So yeah, fine, definitely. I love it. You know, so but Christmas parties, no, I mean, I know, I think you mentioned something about it's a big party in a castle with, was that the
that was Sepultura's KSAD. Yeah, it was Caerphilly Castle. The biggest castle in Wales, where they did the KSAD release party. And they invited all the press and all that shit.
We did so when Roots came out, and there must have been stuff going on. Well, I know we were in Brazilian bars in Amsterdam, and like we did a little promo tour, you know, around. So there was a lot of sort of party atmosphere around about then as well. You know, I remember something Brazilian dancers at half the shows and stuff like this.
Right.
Okay. Cologne and things like that. But no, an actual party. No.
Fair dues. There's some question which
I'm not popular. I'm trying to make out that I'm mate, but they're like, that fucking guy, no way. You know?
There's some like tail off questions that are like staples. Which I like. I'm one of them. I've been asked to ask about collecting as many Christmas party stories as I can muster.
Yeah, nah. You know, you said that you're thinking about stuff, and on that Machine Head tour, it was like there was lots of funny moments, and it was just like crazy. We were like, these fucking Americans are nuts. But that I was laughing to myself earlier because I remember we did a gig somewhere, and there was no food or whatever, and we all ended up going to this pizza shop. It was out in Italy or Spain or somewhere like that, and it turned out they were doing 2-for-1 pizzas, and so there was a guy, Mike Scum was the guitar tech. This was like, I think Rob's like best friend, perhaps, or a very good friend. And he just, I've never seen anybody happier in my life. And they were just, 2-for-1, 2-for-1. You know what I mean? And they went fucking bananas that they were getting 2-for-1 pizzas. And they came away with the biggest pizzas you'd ever fucking seen. And, 2-for-1, baby! You know, they were just fucking, Scum was freaking the fuck out. It was so brilliant. And then we had to live with these fucking pizzas on that bus for about a fucking week. Well, because nobody could eat them. It was too much. And they wouldn't fit in the fridge. So it's going fuck it. It was like, it made me think of like, an old episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets this fucking, 10-foot long sub sandwich that he's won or something like that. But he's refusing to throw it out. He's going crazy and all that. We had these fucking pizzas lying, 2-for-1, Rob! So just when you said 2-for-1 there, sorry, mate.
It's all right. Yeah, I think that's a good way to sign off.
But I get Felix on, mate. You know what I mean? He'll give you better insight than me.
Give me the facts.
He'll give you the facts. I'll give you some of the shit.
If we do one where it's Felix and yourself, I'm going to call it shit and facts.
Yeah, exactly. Shit and facts. Shit and facts.